The first step of obsession-powered success is to embrace an obsessive personality. A person's obsession should be focused on his or her purpose. Maintaining an obsession involves feeding the beast by constantly spending time and energy on that purpose. Doubt is the biggest obstacle to obsessively achieving goals. It can be counteracted with obsessive self-control. Obsessed people must be willing to take the risks that result in the biggest gains. Sales is the heart of most businesses, so successful people in business must be obsessed with selling. The best strategy to impress others is to promise more than seems possible, and then to deliver as much as possible of that promise. It is important to find team members who are likewise obsessed, and to build a culture that rewards obsession. A high degree of control is a good thing in business. Obsessed people are the best users of positions of control. Obsessive people are persistent and do not quit. Once a goal is accomplished, the next step is to find a bigger goal and continue to pursue it obsessively. Accepting mediocrity is more damaging than obsession. An obsessive personality allows people to overcome the quagmire of socially accepted mediocrity. Anything can be the subject of an obsession, but the best application of obsession is on a constructive activity. Obsession applied to negative habits like drugs or alcohol can result in addiction. A bored person with an obsessive personality will resort to these destructive habits. Addiction and similar obsessions are driven by chemicals in the bloodstream that the body emits in response to stimuli. One such chemical is dopamine, which delivers positive sensations in response to feelings of accomplishment. A rush of dopamine can be triggered by minor stimuli, such as attention on social media, or by significant achievements. Addictive substances like alcohol and drugs break that natural system by flooding the brain with dopamine. Over time, the natural processes that usually produce dopamine from less destructive activities decrease, and those accomplishments seem to be less internally rewarding. Susceptibility to addiction may vary from person to person due to existing brain chemistry. The same chemical can also be involved in more constructive obsessions, like an obsession with business success or an obsession with academic performance. Whether people give in to destructive addictions or decide to direct their energies to constructive successes depends on whether they wish to remain average or instead reject and overcome mediocrity. Purposeful obsession is guided by analyzing a person's hobbies or dreams. Properly directed obsession can include a healthy family life and charitable activities. The best way to discover the purpose that will lead to obsession-directed success is for people to ask themselves what they would be doing if they did not need to make money, how they spend their free time, and similar questions that will uncover their passions. One way to remain focused on that purpose is to write down the long-term goal every morning. In addiction treatment programs and according to research, selfless and purposeful action can be a remedy to destructive addictions. This is because hormones that drive instant gratification behavior are best managed by other hormones associated with the sense of pride and closeness with other people. Purpose-driven obsession triggers the release of serotonin and oxytocin when a person accomplishes a significant goal and feels that those actions had a positive impact on others. Shifting an obsession from destructive, instantly gratifying rewards like gambling to altruistic or purpose-driven rewards, like volunteering for a nonprofit, making dinner for the family, or participating in neighborhood improvement groups, can rebalance the chemicals that signal feelings of success in a way that allows for the healthiest behaviors. Obsession must be maintained with a strong focus on the future and constant learning about the subject of the obsession. Ways of feeding the beast of obsession include constantly learning about the subject of the goal and handling money carefully, because money is the means to achieve many goals. Another way is to build connections with people who are more successful than oneself. Their success can be inspirational. Today, it is more possible than ever to feed the beast of an obsession and satisfy an obsessive desire for knowledge and growth. For example, an obsessive manager might want to get to the bottom of a team's declining productivity, an investigation that requires a significant amount of time and effort. Data analysis technology is accessible to anyone with a computer, as are many technologies for collecting data on individual or team performance. This means that obsessive managers can gather as much information as necessary and experiment with new methods to improve their personal productivity and that of employees. A manager can make use of employee productivity self-reporting tools, software that monitors the employee's web traffic, and a program that takes this data in its raw form and converts it into charts and tables displaying the relationships between various activities and resulting productivity. From there, the manager could measure the impact of any new program, like a team accountability system, to determine whether it helps the team finish its work. This level of engagement in such banal details would bore any manager who isn't totally obsessed with analyzing team output. People should avoid doubt and threats of burnout or negativity, which distract from the purpose of the obsession. It is important to avoid entertaining doubts or giving in to suggestions that obsession can lead to self-destructive behavior. Often, the people who express the most concern about obsessive behavior are the people who care the most about the obsessed person's welfare. However, the concerns of bystanders are usually unfounded if those people have no experience working on a big goal. Nevertheless, criticism can actually help a person achieve greatness, and doubt can be a strong motivator to put even more time and energy into goals. If people are wondering whether they should listen to critical feedback, the first step is to examine the strength of the evidence behind the criticism. If an activity perceived as frivolous by others, like attending a different professional cocktail hour every evening, actually results in measurable outcomes like increasing and stronger ties to new clients, then criticism of that activity as excessive socialization is misguided. Even critical feedback with strong supporting evidence does not mean a person must give up on a dream. But as with any failure, it warrants a new approach. Therefore, a person starting a career as an author need not consider negative feedback as proof that he or she should quit. But a scientist doing research on a cure for cancer would be wise to consider evidence that casts doubt on the current understanding of the scientific principles involved. Self-control is the key to success. People must obsessively control their money management and build their brands. Self-control or domination is the key to maintaining obsessive progress. So personal discipline of behaviors, health, family life, and money is the key to positive gains from obsession. The best results in the workplace result from obsessively dominating control of employees' money management. This should also extend to dominating an area of individual expertise and developing a dominant personal brand. Self-domination may resemble discipline, but research suggests that discipline is not actually the force that people commonly assume it is. Some people assume that an individual is born either with or without discipline. Others believe that discipline is cultural. These deterministic outlooks encourage the belief that it's effortless for disciplined people to control themselves, and that undisciplined people cannot gain more discipline. In reality, discipline is more closely tied to willpower, which is something that people can strengthen with use just like a muscle. Willpower is a quality that diminishes in stressful situations, tiring out like a muscle, but strengthening the more often it is exercised. Someone with poor money management habits might succeed in developing better control by taking on small challenges like cutting out a wasteful expense for a period of time and avoiding purchasing decisions when willpower is already depleted from work stress. People must take risks in order to succeed, but they can manage the negative impact of those risks with obsession. Big gains come from activities that are considered risky, so success can be driven by living in new places and meeting new people. Taking risks will sometimes upset other people, but upsetting people from time to time is worthwhile to maintain an advantage. Additional wise risks to take include trying new investments and technologies. Constant activity and adaptability are essential because an obsession must persist even if the circumstances render a current approach ineffective. One guideline for knowing which risk to take is to follow the Pareto principle, developed by quality control specialist Joseph Jern. This principle states that 80% of results come from 20% of inputs or causes, so any change in productivity or revenue can be mostly attributed to a small portion of that change's many influences. One CEO described using the Pareto principle to better balance her work and home commitments. She took a risk by beginning her entrepreneurial project with 2 small children depending on her. Instead of committing time to every aspect of motherhood and every part of business operations, she dedicated time to the 20% of activities that had the biggest impact on her children and her business. Being a parent and running a business simultaneously is a risky proposition, but she was better able to absorb those risks when she could focus on important, impactful activities. Obsession is especially useful for people working in sales. The best salespeople are obsessed with their product, their customers, and managing their team. Good salespeople are obsessed with every feature and application of their product, with pursuing the deal until it closes, and with taking responsibility for success and failure. Sales managers should gather data on their teams to analyze for potential advantages. They should hold daily informative meetings and represent a positive example for the team members. For example, if a team is selling account management software to salespeople in other companies, every team member should be able to answer questions about the program's features and technical specifications. Their customers will have a range of questions depending on what industry they work in and the size of their company. So one customer might ask how many accounts they can add and manage, and another might be more interested in the amount of data they could add to each account entry. A customer will be more impressed by a team member who has all the answers than by one who must constantly refer back to the supervisor. With activity documentation becoming a common feature of workplaces, the manager can monitor each team member's activity and progress toward a sale based on records of each action taken on a customer's account. In regular meetings, the manager can then mention who has been most productive not only in terms of sales, but also in terms of who has resolved the greatest number of client queries. The best strategy is to overpromise and make big claims to the customer, then obsess over meeting those promises and work toward over-delivering on them. Conventional wisdom teaches that in any negotiation, it's wise to underpromise and over-deliver. But if people overpromise and over-deliver, they impress the customer with their confidence. If they are committed to the promise, they will almost always deliver more than a non-obsessed competitor would. The customer will still be impressed even if the provider fails to meet the promise, as long as the delivery was better than others would have promised. The practice of overpromising and over-delivering offers a slight adjustment to the advice that Cardone gives in a previous book, the 10x rule, which proposes that success is best enabled if efforts are set for a goal 10 times larger than the current one. The 10x rule is supposed to ensure more effort and better planning, which brings people closer to the original goal, or the farthest they can go in exceeding it. Combining the 10x rule with directed obsession, therefore, might lead a person to strategically promise a result 2 or 3 times greater than the expectation or request, and then focus his or her own efforts on a goal 10 times higher. The resulting outcome might be the original overpromised target of 2 or 3 times the original request, or it could be an impressive 4, 6, or 10 times higher. Obsessed people can build strong teams of obsessed employees and motivate them by rewarding success. Good employees are worth hiring, even if they are expensive, because they deliver more to the company than it costs to pay them. Even employee turnover is a positive force for ensuring that the team is made up only of employees who fit the obsessive culture. However, they must earn every raise and promotion with exemplary performance, not just through seniority. The hiring process itself benefits from obsessive attention to detail. Some modern hiring practices are specifically designed to identify people with the obsessions that the company finds most useful. Digital design firms and web development companies administer tests that ask potential employees to turn a design document into a fully functional website or user interface. This can require hours of work just in the interview process. Most programmers know about the languages and technologies that would solve these programming and design challenges. It requires a person with passion or obsession to strive to solve those challenges with the greatest accuracy, the most efficient code, and the most impressive functionality, which all come through in the challenge more than they would in a traditional question and answer interview. Obsessive people seize control wherever they can and exert as much influence as possible to affect results. Most people avoid taking control because that involves accepting too much responsibility and committing to hard work. Leadership requires control, and good leaders exercise that control at every step of the processes they supervise. The control that obsessed people exert in the business world extends beyond their own assignments. It takes the form of otherwise voluntary tasks like scheduling educational opportunities for the team or creating a scoreboard that shows the team's progress toward a goal. An obsessed employee seizes opportunities to engage in leadership-like roles and demonstrate readiness to adopt a more formal leadership position within the company. However, an obsessed person must be obsessively focused to ensure that these commitments are in the service of advancement, because committing to every volunteer opportunity can quickly deplete an individual's time and energy. Obsessive people do not give up, and they learn from their failures. Even when things are going poorly, successful people keep putting energy and time into their goals and getting tasks done, even if results are not perfect. Many of the most famously successful people in history failed in their early endeavors, but kept working on their obsessions until they succeeded. Acknowledging and even celebrating failure has become a part of innovation culture. Since 2009, an annual convention called Failcon has focused on recovering from business failures. Failcon began in San Francisco and emphasizes failure in startups, investment, and new technologies. The purpose of Failcon is to counteract the stigma of failure and provide support for entrepreneurs who have failed. They need that support because it is often difficult to disentangle business failure from the feeling of personal failure. Discussing those difficulties and sharing lessons learned in the process of failure is one way for entrepreneurs to accumulate knowledge about failed ideas and strategies without having to experience those disappointments personally. When an obsessed person reaches a goal, the next step is to set a new distant goal and begin working towards it. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter has been obsessed with the goal of eradicating the parasitic guinea worm ever since he left his elected office. Even though the former president is more than 90 years old and has been diagnosed with brain cancer, Carter has dedicated himself to the goal through his organization. As of 2016, health workers were approaching the complete eradication of the worm. If they can successfully overcome the last challenge in their way, the guinea worm's transmission through dogs, it will be just the second human disease to be completely eradicated. Carter has already mentioned that, after finishing his work with the guinea worm, he will start working on another major health goal: the eradication of the more challenging fly-transmitted river blindness.